ManHood, brought to you by Lucozade.
ManHood, brought to you in part by Lucozade and Solomon Bespoke.
This is ManHood. Thank you for staying with us and listening to us once more. We're talking today about coping mechanisms. So to my right, Johanse Ayodike, behavior change consultant. To his right, Richie Bansraj, men's rights advocate.
Correct, yeah.
And I squint in my eyes because I've never heard of a men's rights advocate, especially in Trinidad. So it'll be a real interesting one. And we don't have one, but we have two men's rights advocates in Kelson, Wilson, Mon. So two guys who have been doing this for years, been involved for years. Of course, they wear many other hats, which we'll talk about today, that help, I suppose, enhance what they're trying to do, put them out there, get them more involved, get a real sense of honing in on that particular craft and that understanding and that knowledge. So enough talking from me. I want to go straight into it because that's very intriguing. I mean, this is a men's health podcast, and to know, the one thing that we've never, at least to my recollection, have been very specific on are men's rights. Do men have rights? I mean, I know as humans, we have rights. As citizens, we have rights. You have rights in the organization that you work with or on a board or in very specific things like that. But it never occurred to me. You always hear women's rights, but
children's rights.
Children's rights, yeah. But I've never,
Because I wonder if it have rights specific to men.
So when you say you're a men's rights advocate, is it that you are... I mean, you tell me.
Right. So when you look at the whole context of rights, right, you have women's rights, you have men's rights, but you also have human rights, which women and men tend to share.
Okay.
However, in the social context of things, you tend to see that women have certain rights in some things more than men have rights in some things as well. So like, let me say the court system. Human rights, you're supposed to be where it is 50-50, you're supposed to get a fair chance of getting custody of the children, right, as a man. Is that the reality we see statistically? That's just one of the aspects that we could dive into and talk about. But men in general are also, men look at other men and they look at the rights that other men have and the lack thereof as well. So they judge other men. Men judge other men, and women judge other men as well. And therefore, we fit into a category, we put ourselves in a category where we have to label ourselves a certain way as a man, and what is expected from a man.
Well, Richie, I just said that. There's one thing that as men we understand. Yeah. Men are allowed to have two moods per se, fine and angry. No, but that's what you put the perception. I'm not saying allowed to. I'm talking about the perception is a man is either supposed to be fine or he's labeled as angry.
Right.
If you're upset with the status quo or you have emotion,
correct,
that is known that as a man, whether you cry, whether you're upset about something,
or if you have boundaries.
If you have boundaries, you either. Then you're angry. There's an issue with you, right? And if not, then you're supposed to be fine and suck up whatever comes your particular way. And as men, we also entertain that horse. We have settled to the fact that we know it's not fair, it's not right, but we won't stand up to say, hey, this is not right, because we're in fear of being cancelled.
Yeah.
We're in fear of the fact that people may say, but men always had power. Men always had this. But the reality is, did we? Did we always?
Well, Robert, so I'll piggyback on for one time, and then something you said. You made a distinction with human rights, and then you said social rights. What do you mean by that? What's social rights?
The contextuality of what is expected of a woman versus what is expected of a man in society. What is expected of a boy? What is expected of a girl in society? Boys, if you cry as a boy, father will say, hey, what are you crying for? Is that a little girl?
Right.
The mother will tell the boy that too. What are you crying for? Is that a little girl? And they don't even know that this happening.
This is fine and angry. This is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Too.
Right. So I ask for the distinction because you see, one is law, right, and the other is
Common
perception or pressure, and that's important because Robert said about fighting back. Why we just allow it, right? For the most part, you currently, if you're living in a country, whatever country that is, you as one person not going to fight the law. The law for the land is most times the law. You could fight eventually, right? But for the most part, you should respect the law of the land. But when you come in with social rights, right? That is where I think sometimes women acquiesce and submit to social when we don't necessarily have to, and we could go into the whys and things like that because I want to challenge something you say. You said that look what happened in the court system, right? And sometimes the perception is that the law, the family law or family court law in Trinidad and Tobago, that's where I'm most familiar with, is unfair towards men. Now, years ago, this was about in 2018, 2019, so laws could have changed till then, but fundamentally the same. A group of us men, we did research into the family court law in Trinidad and Tobago, and the law is actually not unfair to men.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The law is fair to men, but because men have the perception that it's unfair, sometimes the men don't do the research. So sometimes a woman will sit, like you say, a couple splitting up, right, divorce. The woman will sit and research the law of the land to make sure that she, be with her lawyer, but make sure that she's armed with whatever.
Correct.
A man will say, you know what, well, it's unfair anyway,
No,
you understand what I'm saying?
Hang on. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree because my thing is, if I am hiring, I don't go into the court by myself. You go to court with a lawyer, and you expect that attorney lawyer, whether it's legal aid or whatever, will have done the research and will know that law. So you're not supposed to know whether it's for you or against you and be able to see what benefits you or not. If I have to brief my lawyer and guide them, then guess what? I need an ex-lawyer.
Then
So
but many lawyers are specialized there, but we don't go to the right ones.
And therefore, I know from first-hand experience, when I say first-hand in terms of a brother, a cousin, family members who have unfortunately gone through, whether it be divorce and their children involved, and you see it even with how many conversations have we had on this show with regards to domestic violence. When we speak to Rondell Fields and these people with Single Fathers Association, well, it's now Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and you see the moment something happens, immediately, there's no questions asked. So whether the law, even if you talk about the law, the lawyer should know that. So therefore, it should still remain 50-50. But the judge, the magistrate, or the master then is subject to interpretation, and their own emotion, they're human, may then still take the front of what is being accustomed or social or expected, that immediately, just like a police officer may do, the moment you come in, there are no questions really asked if there's domestic violence.
Perfect.
And hang on, and then on top of that, what happens is the police officer may do an arrest, but then it's left up to the court system then to determine, okay, whether or not there was indeed, there's evidence to show or evidence against or whatever the case may be, that then the person is then released. But by that point, the name is tarnished. They could have lost their job. They could have done all of these things. So the law being 50-50 doesn't come down to the social rights aspect of it.
Right. So good. So that means, which I've noticed and what we highlight, is that the social rights most times trump the actual empirical human rights.
The law, the legal expectation.
The legal expectation. I mean, because we hear it all the time. And again, I say two things as many times as I can on this particular show. To me, I think women, the issue I think is women don't truly know their power, because a lot of times you think men are more powerful, maybe physically, but the reality is the power really is in not always exercising your power. Because if in the end you get what you want, and you can be subtle in that approach, then who really has the power? The person who feels that they're powerful, or the person is getting what they want in the first place? And therefore, many times you hear all the time, power the beep, women. Ultimately, what are men going after? What are men doing all this for? What is the bravado about? What is the ego? What is the quote-unquote disrespect among men always charged or ignited by? Women. So therefore, women, for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, women are, in many cases, let's face it, women are smarter, And it's just a matter of knowing that power. Now, what we come down to is women not having the rights in the past or in certain parts of the world to be able to be equal. And those are things that for sure need to be looked at and checked. But outside of that, all of these things, and social media has put it forward. What's it? The story with the bear. A woman would rather encounter a bear than a single man in the forest. And when we have all of these conversations, that is when we are now putting out more and more the narrative of immediately something happens, man is at fault. Men are
the villains. Men are the villains. But it is always, you mentioned the P word, power. I'm a sociologist as well too.
Right. That's not the P word I was mentioning.
I know, I know the P, but power you mentioned.
Yeah, bleeps for that.
Yes, actually you mentioned that word, right? Power is a struggle between the genders, right? So between the men and the women. So they always find ways to fight to see who's better than what, to see who could get more power in society. Since medieval days, since before that, it's always a struggle, a power struggle to see which gender is the better one in terms of power. Now, generally, if you ask, we in a society where a patriarchal society, some people will say that men have all the power, men are the ones in leadership, but are they really though? That is the question I have to ask you all. Are they really the ones in power? Yes, they might show that there are some in high positions of power, but right now, who's our Prime Minister?
And President.
And President.
All right. So, and Kels, now I will jump in.
Sure.
What exactly you always advocate for?
Okay, so now there's, in order for you to become a man, you first have to be a boy, right? We could agree on this. So if that is the case, then when it is that we are shut down from being able to show any form of emotion or hurt, that automatically, as we begin to touch on earlier, begins to infringe on our same child right.
Okay, all right.
When we learn to continuously shut down on that, it sets up for the greater fall when being a man to not have much emotions later down.
We have the emotions,
but how we utilize it.
I'm not cutting here, but that is a real important. I never looked at it like that. That if when you tell a boy, don't cry, want to you, that is infringing on his rights. And I never look at it like that, you know. Okay, go ahead.
It is. So when it is that we begin to go through with that, so for example, in various spaces that I occupied and worked on with who from preschool to primary school, secondary school, even some of those youths that were incarcerated, right? Communicating with some of them, begin to hear males, especially the boys, between 7 to 17. The various things that we heard and saw is ridiculous, right? To the extent where my mom could tell you, anytime I hear the word children at 30, my mind is goes so.
Give us an example of something they say is ridiculous, like what? Give us an example.
Okay, so where we were, there was a team of us, a combined team of who were past prison officers, who were police officers, who were from different services, different things that came together, right? And who mainly know that we were operating. The team no longer exists, but who mainly know that we were functional is the courts that they would normally send who between that age group with especially certain offenses. So you may meet a boy who like age 15 and 25, different charges and different kinds of things, right? When talking to some of them, and you get to hear how they ended up there and why, then you scratch your head. It had times I was talking to, because by the way, according to some of the things with the Children Authority, and they operate with a certain amount of the Children's Act. They don't look at the full length of it. Neither do some of the officers look at the full length of the Children's Act to push back in accordance to what is inside of the Children's Act that could also deal with that, right? So there are some limitations that they give to the officers dealing with them. So for example, we could not have called, even when you have who were committed for murder, firearms, grand theft auto, under 18, by the way, under 18. But then they don't want you to be able to talk to some of them. But you are to work with them on the inside. They don't want you to ask them certain questions. So it's like, okay, so how are you expecting us to assist them? Riot taking place. They don't want to give us riot gear and different kinds of things. We on the inside, we have to go in to part fight. Them stab officers, they do a whole set of madness. For example, in 2017, we had every other day between the July, August, it was very chaotic. It was riots.
I don't want to. I appreciate what you're telling me, Kelson, with regards to the story, but I don't want to go down a road of the specific with the Children Authority and the particular act, because every authority, every organization, every institution has its own challenges, right? And I appreciate the information you're bringing to us with regards to the where they may look at the Children's Act. So we know that the Children's Act, which exists for I'm sure for all to see, would have a wider understand for all of us, could have a wider understanding as to how to move forward. But I don't want us to drift too far from the coping mechanism. So what outside of the Children Authority, in terms of the people that you encounter, people that encounter individuals like that, what are some of, in terms of those, apart from riot gear or you being able to go into the prison, the encounters that you have where you have been able to speak to people, what are some of the conversations that you have with them? And I want us to really hone in on the full extent of how do we start to deal with these things as we're identifying what men go through. So we learned about, the children's rights was a big thing for me and Johan say. And then many other areas outside of that. But I don't want to go into the politics and the narrative because they will have their own their own rebuttal to that. Right?
No problem. Well, I'm glad you said that and glad you asked that. Reason being, I'm in theater and film and have been for over 20 years. Because of that, I am one of the few who got them to do a lot of different things. So, for example, I bought 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, and 6D pencils for the majority of them, and sketchbook for some of the, I can't say inmates, the
clients of the facility.
The clients of the facility. No.
Yeah. All right, well then here what? Because what I'm trying to get to, Kelson, is let's move away from institutions as a total, right? We talk about individuals. So either way you take it, whether they incarcerated, whether they in an orphanage, whether they in homes, whether they in abused homes, the individuals and behaviors are the same, right? The characteristics are still going to be the same, and therefore how you approach those individuals, because not everybody's incarcerated. Sometimes they're outside, they're going through their own abuse.
Correct.
So in other words, like you tell me about the pencils and all that, would that be a coping mechanism that everybody can use or somebody can use, or is it specific to an institution?
Right. No, everyone can use it.
So let's talk about that.
Some of the different ways that I've dealt with youths in general, male and female, right, boys and girls, is being able to find out from them what do they like. So one of the things that I used to do in some of the secondary schools as well is give some of the students to take out a page, have a pencil or a pen. Don't write their name on it. And all I want them to write is, what have you always wanted to see since you have been born as a little child? 2, what have you always wanted to do as a little child? And where do you see yourself doing it?
Does color matter?
No.
Because sometimes, it depends on the color that they use. Sometimes they say if, a child is drawing and he's only using black.
That's actually something different. And I also was sent by that institution to do art therapy for the traumatized child and art therapy for depression and anxiety as well there too, right? To enhance that. So it's broad. And when it is that I had them do that, in order to get them to that space, I let them know, listen, this is a safe space. Anything that you hear, see, smell, taste, or touch here stays here. this information is not coming out from here because you trust me and I trust you. I will also give you some information about me. If you open up your pie hole and go and tell anybody with what went on, I will give permission to the other students to expose your information. They say, what? All right. You'd be amazed to hear how these children pour out. They in essence, the children, they understand how to discern faster. This is why they don't take rubbish. Being real, right? And they want the truth so that they could be able to open up. They want to talk. They want to help us, and they want us to help them. But if they don't trust us, they will not open up at all. So therefore, when it is that I give them that as an exercise, some of them children face change, right? And then they begin to open up. But of course, I can't say exactly what went on and what they wrote.
Now, I pause in there. Now, we start with the coping mechanisms, right? And it's sometimes how simple the coping mechanisms are. But part of the show is one thing we have to cope with is going to the break. So, we're taking a break and we'll be back in our short.
Hi, I'm Devin.
And I'm Alex from BMW Trinidad.
And today, we're going to show you the new BMW X1, our compact luxury SUV that combines versatility, modern design, and that unmistakable BMW performance. The X1 delivers a commanding presence with its sculpted lines, enlarged kidney grille, and athletic SUV proportions. Inside, the cabin is spacious, refined, and crafted with BMW's signature attention to detail.
The X1 is available in gasoline, hybrid, and fully electric configurations, offering a powertrain that's perfectly suited for every lifestyle and driving preference. To experience the BMW X1, visit us at La Fast Motor San Fernando.
And come and test drive the ultimate driving machine.
Okay, let me see you Cherry Hill. Yeah, now take it back. Let me see you rock off, shake off. Let me see you rock off. Let me see you kick right. Now step forward, now step back.
Lucozade, bring the energy. Unbeatable taste, new look.
Shake off. Let me see you rock off.
What if we each took one small action today that could have big impact tomorrow? What if one family took a stand to reduce waste in our landfills? What if one school made a choice that can lead to a greener Trinidad and Tobago? When you recycle glass, you create jobs, reduce waste, save resources, and help preserve our environment. Glass bottles and jars are 100% recyclable and can be reused indefinitely. Recycle your glass and join the Glass Loop movement today.
Dry, irritated skin can make everyday life uncomfortable. For those with eczema, psoriasis, or sensitive, damaged skin, Manuka Derm is made with medical-grade Manuka honey, not regular honey, known for its soothing and healing properties. It helps calm, protect, and support skin recovery. Suitable for dry skin, skin tears, excoriations, and minor superficial wounds and burns. Manuka Derm, powered by Manuka honey. Available at pharmacies nationwide.
Lucozade, bring the energy. Unbeatable taste, new look.
This is ManHood. We're talking about coping mechanisms. Kelson, what you was talking about before?
Right, so basically what I was looking into and expressing is being able to have these children write down so that they could begin to see themselves and begin to be in the moment. It is vitally important that we learn to be in the moment. If we don't learn to be in the moment and identify with what's going on and who we are, then it becomes way harder when we start to get older. Right? So, for example, where we are now, we can't go back there. Right? We have a lot of experiences that we have gained, fortunately and unfortunately. Right?
That time is gone. But I want before you continue, you mentioned about the children that you had worked with. That part of the exercise that you do as part of their coping mechanism is to write down the name, what they want to do.
No, not write down the name.
Don't write down the name, sorry.
Not to write down
so
the name.
not to write down the name, but to write down what they want to do in life, right? So when they do that, and you express the fact that you saw a change in their face, and part of the trust factor was that, hey, nobody's to expose the other person. What in your experience, and Richie, you might even want to jump in it, do you then see after that exercise, so they leave with almost a cathartic experience? They feel that they've been heard, that they've been seen in some way. Is there further development to that? Is there something that at home, when we're having our discussions, because it's not just someone that's incarcerated, it's not just someone that has been abused or has gone through, according to what we're learning here today, children's rights have been abused, and we all are guilty of it, because when we say don't cry, without even knowing it, in all households, we have infringed on a children's right, a child's rights. And so what are some of when you see an exercise like that, what some of the next steps? What are some of the things that you've seen that have been positive outcomes?
Right, a lot of positive outcomes, because from that day, I begin to touch on other things like, okay, based on what you have, what do you feel comfortable doing? What do you love? And then I begin to go into, okay, so you like to sing, so let me hear you sing. All right, okay.
Those things sound
Could you
real
draw?
strange when I think about a Trinidadian household now. What you like to do, right? What make you happy? And Robert, when you raise the point just now there about not just incarcerated, but at home, right? The rights of a child. Sometimes Trinidadian parents, what rights you have, right? If you understand what's in, and that's what we go up here.
This is what I want to hear more. I want to hear more about this children's rights. Is it social or is it actually law? Because I know you mentioned the Children's Act. Now, in the Children's Act, does it say that you have the right to cry? Does it specifically say that? So when you use the word, it is the right, because when you had that epiphany moment, and you said, hey, I didn't realize that children have rights, when we tell them we've infringed on their right, it was specific to when he said about don't cry. So is that in the Children's Act that says a child must be permitted to cry, or is that an interpretation?
Interpretation based on emotional. Being able to express themselves for emotion.
So it specifically says that a child must be able to express themselves.
They have different things. I can't remember the exact wording, but yeah,
right. Have real plenty children's rights, huh?
And this is the thing. Is there something like so a child? So in other words, a child under 16, right, or under 18, depends on the country you're in, can say it is my right to do this and not get a whooping.
Now, whooping is illegal too. That is also illegal.
No, but I'm just saying that in the fairness to the child, that is without fear of retribution, in a way that you go, oh, you feel you have rights. Then and I'm not saying that's you whooping, but if you are allowed to do this, then I have a right not to feed you.
Robert, the Trinbagonian context comes into play there. Yes, we have just the same thing with the human rights. We have the human rights there. We have the children's rights, but the context of a Trinbagonian child, a boy or a girl, is different. It's normal to give a child licks in Trinidad, but it is illegal to give a child licks in Trinidad. It has so much long-term repercussions to actually physically
it is normal to give a child licks, but it's illegal to give a child.
It is wrong. It is wrong. You're not supposed to do that, right? I believe, from my psychology, I'm a psychologist as well as my background. If you give a child licks, it has long-term impacts. You know, when they become an adult and they get in a relationship.
Nah, but I get licks. I good.
Hold on,
that's how it is.
I like that challenge.
But that's what people listen now.
People
say that. I get licks. I good.
I good. Yeah, really, really. Because are you more aggressive when it comes to your significant other? If you are getting challenged by a significant other, what's your first response? My cuss, my gun. Then if it don't work, what are you going to do after that?
No, but before he cut you and he interrupt you, I want to find out what when you said the long-term effects, is it that you're saying that the long-term effects are, I don't know where you're going with it. Is it that you're saying that somebody who gets licks then gives licks? Or behaves in a particular way? That's what I want to have understanding.
The studies actually show that from...
Because I get real cut and I never put a finger on my child.
Right, so that is the difference, right? Because you ever give a child licks?
No.
Right. So that means that did you think that you getting licks was right or wrong? So why it is that you don't give it, then that lead up, why don't give it
I
child
can't say at the time that I'd have been like, hey, Dad, come and cut my you know, I wouldn't have been happy about it.
Right.
But can I say honestly that I've been traumatized by it? I can't really say. Maybe if I sat down deep enough as a child, I might go.
People deal with it differently.
You know, I didn't fear.
Some people think relics when you come out
in shows before. I think when we were talking about children, I think it's when the youth here who sang with Masha, okay? Angelo, when Angelo was here, right? And we were talking about it, and he was asking his father about whether he's getting licks, you know, on all of that. And we highlighted it even for you, the way you spoke about a lot. Well, I get relics, you know. I get licks from all kind of thing. Even speaking like that. You see, trauma, sometimes when we say traumatized, we think high, 10 out of 10, 100 scale.
Normalized,
right?
Normalized.
But trauma is still 2 out of 10. You could have 2 out of 10 trauma,
correct.
which has lasting effects.
But it's also a story. It also makes you, in some ways, Trimbigo, something to share. You know, it's like how people say back in the day or in my days. Licks is something that I think as men or as people our age that we communicate and discuss. We'd say it's almost like a sharing. Where you get licks from? I used to get licks with a pot, or you get licks with a pot. I used to get licks with a wire, or a guava stick, or a beach stick. No, but again, we look
cultural thing.
We look, but then look at the shift. Look at the shift now in what's happening in schools. That wasn't happening in schools in my day.
I disagree. I wasn't back then, but I spoke to teachers and stuff like that. They said it always used to exist, but
social media
showing it now.
It always existed. Yes, there will always be fights. I got into fights in school, but certainly you dare not guff up for a teacher.
Nah, that exists. Teachers tell me the same thing. That existed before. The same kind of disrespect for students that you see now, but it's just it didn't have cameras.
Yes.
So cut or no cut then. So let's just they always are saying spare the rod and spoil the child, right? I believe in there should, and it's different parental ways. You know, I know people that hit their child, that's them. I don't believe in it. I believe a conversation with my son.
Perfect. Yeah.
So in other words, if I even thought to raise if I raise my voice to my son, the look on his face is almost like, was you seeing that? You know, like you can't talk to me on a particular level. So I start to study more into how to communicate. So I get down to his level. Because if I'm standing up there like a beast, to him it's this towering person with a big voice. And of course, we still go to the whole prefrontal cortex, where I think it's not until you're 25 years old is it fully developed, and therefore that is the part of the brain that, and I think it develops from the back to the front, where it's all responsible for emotions and so many other aspects of it. So when you start to shout or hit a child, the lasting effects, they're not understanding the correlation between the two.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you big up yourself.
Dr. Bridget Brereton proposed that we in a culture of violence, the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago in particular too, because since slavery and indentureship, since slavery and indentureship, because of our context, we had slavery and indentureship where people used to use what as the main form of power? Physical abuse, physical control, whip, all of these things, hitting. And the slaves, the indentured, they saw that happening as well. They incorporated it within their family system. Then their family system incorporated with and it continued down the train, and it still continues today in a more modified, modernized form. Now, we see that with our policing as well. Our policing is violent. We use violence, physical violence, as a form of control with the population. I had some video with some licensed officers and all the other day, but that's a whole different...
And hear the irony with that, where we end up in our cycle, right? Because we were cultured into the violence. But, sometimes when people do things, you would say, the only thing that's work with you is violence. But the only thing that's work with a child, like we use children, with violence is violence, because that's all they know now. So it's just be that unending.
No, but hold on, there's another thing, even with regards to when you are stern or you shout at a child. Again, thank God for ChatGPT and Dr. Google and things like that. There's certain science that shows with regards to even even when you speak to a child? Why is it when you shout or say something, is it only then the child listens? Because sometimes you say to your child, you know, it's only when they're bored or it's only when I do this, you listen. And it's because they, and again, in the development, they're zoned into things, whether it be YouTube or whether it be something, and it's only when you shout, it disrupts at that point and takes them out of that moment, and now they're giving you that attention based on the reverberation or the...
No, I'll add to that, right? Picking up everybody point, right, is this. So is a culture of violence, physical violence actually follows the two other things. One, the verbal is more tactical and strategic and more brutal, which then deals with our emotion to feel it attacked in order to put us into the defensive because we didn't set a boundary. Then when setting the boundary, we must also, because before you can set a boundary, you must identify whatsoever you like, what you don't like. So you must have an identity of yourself. Once you don't have that, then the next step is to be able to say, well, okay, I like this, I don't like this, to inform whosoever that approaching that situation. And then you inform them, listen, if you go down this road, this could take place. I don't like this, I don't like that. After that, they still go down that road, enforce your boundary. Once you don't enforce your boundary, they won't take you seriously. So therefore, it's a matter of that there, and then this is where the verbal violence begins to kick in before the physical violence.
Hopefully.
But there's a thing, before the physical violence, something takes place between the verbal and
because in Trini again, it both, while again, lash again, I told you too many times, and you get it while the conversation is
I will tell you why that takes place. Simply because when I was doing something with another
you used to get licks out, child? You should have.
Yeah, I guess some licks. But that wasn't effective for me.
Lines,
No, taking money. That was effective.
Some years ago, when I did a program at one of these schools to be able to do something for Haiti, I had to do genuflecting before the production, right? So I had to study different things with Haiti before the production and the Haitian Revolution and those things, right? In order to direct the students in that direction.
You said genuflecting, as in kneeling down?
No, as in going back within the depths of the history, not just physically, not really physically, right? But going back into it, right? And in order for us to be able to move forward, we need to know and have an idea of what's going on in the back, right? So when going into that, towards the Haitian Revolution, went back up to the languages. This is why I could tell you about the verbal abuse coming down before the physical and before the emotional and then physical and those things, right?
Summarize our history lesson for me quick.
No, that's exactly what we're doing. So the English language is the modern day Phoenician language of witchcraft. We learn to speak spells. So therefore, based on different things that we speak and how that we speak, it was structured in a specific speech pattern. This is why you know that we operate in a particular manner that we do globally as well as in the Caribbean. It enhances with different stimulation on us mentally and physically. So therefore, this is where the additional trauma comes into play on us in order for us to get into that type of cycle. This is how that goes into play. In order to get out of that, which we can get out of that, is to be able to understand who we are. Our personal choice and personal responsibility is vitally important.
Who we are as a people in the Caribbean, or as a child? We're going back to the child.
So we're going back from child and even as an adult, beginning to find that space of who you are, not who society says who you are, not who the law even says who you are, because the law that we're currently under, right, there's two laws that supersedes the laws that we still operate on here now. Indigenous law and common law supersedes it.
So say that again. So indigenous law and what was the other one?
And common law.
And common law supersedes
the constitution of any country, because the constitutions were all enforced upon us by colonizers, right? Which means it was under duress.
Interesting. And where does social law come in with
social rights?
The indigenous.
That's similar to the common law, what you would have mentioned. That is similar to that.
So all right. So plenty to unfold here, but I want, because of the like everything else, it's timing on our show.
Of course.
We clearly understand the importance of, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. And a lot of times people have certain behaviors that they may not understand, which is why they may sit down in his chair, for example, to have a better understanding of why they behave the way they behave. And sometimes you don't even know that you don't know. And a lot of it always stems from childhood. Maybe abuse, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of, something that you brought up with regards in a household where our children could say they have rights. Most times, you see it all the time. There's this meme that speaks about, in America, they ask you what you want to be. And you could be anything. You could be what you want to be. Whereas in China and certain other places, there's a conditioning of, this is a discipline. This is what I'm gearing you to be. And it gives you more structure. And I'm bringing all that to say that as a child, we go through certain pain, some that we know of. And if you use certain coping mechanisms like write down without a name what you want to do, then there's a clear focus. If you can, there's certain households that may, and you see it all the time with people that become world number one in certain things where you are asked, what do you want to do? And you say, sing. And you could see there's a talent, or you want to be a go-kart driver if you have the facilities. And you always see that there was some parent who dedicated their life to ensuring the success of their particular child. But again, there are many other parents who may have done that and the child wasn't successful. But I'm going to the point of, not every parent, most parents are in survival mode. You're trying to raise your child, right? All the rest of it and the discipline. I say to Abigail, my wife, all the time, I say, when sometimes you may find I'm too harsh, I say I'm trying to take a cub and raise him to be a lion. I'm not preparing him for the household. I'm not preparing him for the auntie or the grandmother who goes, oh, I'm so proud of you, you're doing so great and you're doing so this. I'm preparing him for the person outside who may go, if you're doing something and you think, hey, I did a good wheelie, boy, and this time is right to somebody else. They're going to tell you that. Are you prepared for the participation medal? Are you prepared for when someone says, are you proud of me? You're looking for that external appreciation, that external affection, as opposed to, am I proud of myself? Am I okay? And that personal identity, that confidence. And I wanted to leave that there for a moment because I think we get that. I think we get the importance of that. But I want to move it forward from the child that is a boy specifically, because this could be male or female. I want it from the boy and how that then affects going forward to becoming a man. And what men have to now deal with in this particular environment. And one of those things, as we go into that, is Richie. Clear example. Richie, one of his other hats that he wears, content creator. The man can't put on a shirt. I surprised to see him in a suit today. Yeah, full suit today, right? But on all his journeys, that's his thing. However, if a woman said, "Hey, I want to go and do the same thing," they can't.
In our culture, no.
In our culture. And for many reasons, even if it was allowed, the fact is you would immediately see them. A man is conditioned that you'd see that as something sexual. And so even though you are doing that, a lot of women may look at that and say there's still so many things that and men that are unfair for women. It's unfair. But again, I wanted to say what you had to say because I know you want to say something on that, but I really, really want to bring it back to what men are going through in this country and coping mechanisms for our men and our boys, because we're seeing them lashing out.
Okay, so let's touch on this very same point with Rishi, right? I remember a few years ago we had Carnival, and in Carnival we had two women that made news on both TV and
they painted the body, yeah.
Correct, they painted the body. But legally, once they cover the nipple, the breast not showing. So not.
Yeah, but we're not talking about what is legal and not legal. You're not talking about in terms of like you talk about social rights or indigenous rights. If a woman did that and went on social media What is she attracting to herself? That's our OnlyFans page.
Of course, this is what we get accustomed to.
So they may think that it's unfair. It is unfair because that's how men, we are conditioned. You can't change that now. You can't change how you would then look at that. You're looking at Richie Page, you're saying, hey, look at the places he went to. Some people might say, hey, well, the man is taking care of himself. But that's the end of that. If a woman did that now, chances are you don't even know where she is. Because you're looking at her, you know, and that's not a condition we're going to change anytime soon.
Well, you see what you raising, Robert, and that where sometimes the difficulty is that I don't think any empirical law could balance the difference between men and women, right? Empirical law, right? So therefore, and in discovering coping mechanisms is based on a subjective thing. Because let me go with disciplining a child. Disciplining a child is really based on the child, not even anything. Parents have to know their children. I'll give you an example. This week self, helping our family, mother, father, child. I asked mother and father, say, do you know your son? And they watch each other and realize we don't. We know who he was when he was whatever age, but this age now. So that I spoke to the parents. Then I asked the child, I say, one, do you think your parents know you? He before I even finish, he answered no. Right? And then I said, do you know your parents? He said, no either. So I asked, why? Why I think your parents don't know you? And he said, and this is what he said. He said, because I don't share what's going on with me. Right? I say I share some things, right? So they know the basics, but I don't share what's going on with me. And why? Why I don't share it? And he think, and he say he don't know, and that was his homework. So
a lot of it is the age gap too, eh?
No.
A lot of, but sometimes
the age gap, they don't trust them.
And I think
trust is whether no subconscious or conscious, yes, it might have been abused at a time. And again, I know we have to go to the break, but just to say, one of the things we do as parents very easily, and trust is a big thing with that. And it's actually a whole other show that we're going to be talking about, so I won't go into too much about it, is that a lot of times when you are speaking to a friend, you might go, and so did this, and so did that, and you don't realize that you've abused what your daughter or son may have shared with you, or something they've done in a space of comfort, and you're now having not out of any malicious intent, you know, but you've just said, you know, and she talking to her friends with you know, and you know, the girl's so in love with this boy and he's stupid, and you don't realize you just abuse
Robert, you see that?
You just abuse your child trust.
Confirm that. Especially in many secondary schools, why the school social workers inside of many secondary schools do not get most of the students to open up. I could confirm that directly.
And there you go. So it really has to be that you understand that is in the same way a friend, and you know, we always have that friend that goes, but don't tell anybody. Eh? But the reality is every friend have a best friend. And somebody is going to burn you because we are social creatures to have that conversation. But that is where the trust, I understand where you're talking about trust, but I'm also saying that age brings in a factor by the difference in if you have a 9-year-old and you're 60, right? What that child is going through, or what the adult is going through, the language, you know, the clocking and the busing, and the person, you're talking two different languages, and therefore the person might simply look at the child and say, you're not going to understand where I'm coming from, so I'm just going to tell you my day is good. And it's also timing, if we were to go into that again on other episodes, where the last thing you ask your child when you pick him up from school or her from school is, how was school? Because their brain's still firing on so many other things, and you might find it's later on when you're putting them to bed, is all of a sudden is telling you everything about their day. So there are many things with regards to that. But we need to take a short break. We are, yes, believe it or not, we're talking about coping mechanisms. How to cope, the mechanism to cope.
Okay, let me see you Cherry Hill. Yeah, now take it back. Let me see you rock off, shake off. Let me see you rock off. Let me see you kick right. Now step forward, now step back.
Lucozade, bring the energy.
Rock off,
unbeatable taste, new look.
Shake off. Let me see you rock off.
Food Basket Marketplace, Arima, Shogwana, Charflair, and Gulfville. Everyday low prices. Clean and white bleach, 950 ml, $15. Blue Waters Cran Water, 1 liter, 2 for $15. Hibiscus all-purpose flour, 2 kilograms for $15. Box May cornmeal, 340 grams, $15. From fresh produce to pantry essentials and household items, visit Food Basket Marketplace, Arima, Shogwana, Charflair, and Gulfville. Food Basket Marketplace, where shopping is a pleasure and the price is right.
Love eating spicy food, but soon after, that familiar discomfort begins. Heartburn, acid reflux, and bloating. Introducing Peptica Gel, formulated with aluminum hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, and simethicone to help neutralize excess acid. It's sugar-free with no chalky aftertaste and a pleasant orange flavor. Peptica Gel works fast to relieve heartburn, acid reflux, gas, and bloating, so you can feel comfortable again and get back to enjoying life. Peptica Gel, get the relief you need today. Available at pharmacies nationwide.
Recession have you down? Don't lose hope. Head on down to Tire Clinic for the recession deals. Big savings with our road hazard warranty on Dunlop 2021 Falcon tires. Available at Tire Clinic, Cuba, Chaguanas, and Pleasance Park. Tire Clinic, a tire for every need. Call 636-8973 or 636-2958.
Plumbing problems? Don't guess. Call Plumbing Solutions at 628-4646. Proud to be serving Trinidad and Tobago for over 20 years. We do it all. Maintenance and repairs, new construction, sewer lines, inspection, drain cleaning, leak detection. We are licensed and insured, so call Plumbing Solutions at 628-4646.
Heart disease is the #1 cause of death in Trinidad and Tobago, driven by 2 silent threats, diabetes and high cholesterol. But now there's a powerful ally, introducing Berberine Plus by Asia Nutrition, clinically proven to stabilize blood sugar and keep cholesterol levels in check. With 99.9% pure extract, you get superior absorption and real results. Available now at Pennywise and leading pharmacies nationwide. Berberine Plus. Your heart deserves better.
Just got your CXC or CAPE results? Then start your degree today at CTS College and choose from many of our pathways in business management, business administration, human resource management, marketing, finance, management information systems, computer engineering, computing and information systems. Full and partial scholarships are available. CTS College, where education is beyond academics.
This is manhood. Now we're talking about the coping mechanisms that men utilize or don't utilize, right? Or overutilize. Let me jump straight into it. Now, one of the statistics that I wanted to tell you, right, Robert, you was always asking about the statistics. The suicide rate. Between 2011 to 2021, right? That's a 10-year period, right? 82% of the suicides were men and boys. Men and boys. That is way too high. And in the global context of things, 75% of the suicides in the world right now are men and boys. And boys, teenage boys. So we need to...
Hold on, Rich. Before you go into the explanation, I just want to clarify, because there are times that we've heard the stats on the show, and I don't want people out there thinking that, well, is it you want it to be balanced off that more women are committing suicide? So I just want to bring it down to the fact that the reason it's not a matter that men outweigh or outdo women with regards to suicide. Is the reasoning behind the numbers.
We have problems that we need to address as men and boys, because also men are the ones that are committing the murders. Why is that? Men are the ones that are committing statistically the domestic violence, physical domestic violence against women and girls and whoever it is.
Is it in Trinidad 1 in 3? 1 in 3 women are abused?
1 in 3 as well. But we don't even know what the statistics is when it comes to men, because when it comes to physical abuse, men don't go and report. They go and talk because they will get laughed at by police officers. Now we're trying to change it. I see it's
not just physical, there's mental.
Correct.
And,
the emotional abuse. Emotional abuse where women may gaslight the man into saying certain things and gaslight the man and say, hit me now. Hit me. Let me see how man is. And that has actually triggered the man to do the thing. So all of these, that's just one of the issues. All of these link straight back to the coping mechanisms. Now, Robert, what are some of the coping mechanisms that you think men utilize? What's the main one that men utilize in Trinidad and Tobago? What's the main coping mechanism? Drinking rum. So after every work day, they go to the bar, Fridays in particular, it's packed out. And that's, people say that's the safe space, but that's not really a safe space because it's using alcohol to try to cope with drugs. Alcohol is a drug to try to cope with a situation during the day.
It mightn't be a healthy space, but it could be a safe space or at least a safer place than what they have before.
Right. So that is when you find men in the same area, the same bar, wherever it is, that you trust. The key word here is men that you trust to talk about your problems, because sometimes you will tell someone their problems, and Robert said it earlier, you go and talk about this, talk about that, and spread the information. Trinidad to be real small enough, even though it's 1 point something million, it spreads.
Well, you see, that's also part of the thief, because the man who you go and sit down with inside of the bar with to take a drink, he might be the man that dealing with your woman. But you don't know, but you trust him.
Yeah.
But you see, but again, we're using the word trust. Now everything has degrees of trust.
Correct. Yes.
Because at that point you're probably at a point that you have no choice, but you have to trust somebody sometime. Mm-hmm. And when I say trust, you have to take a risk. So it's not necessarily trust, you're taking a risk and you're mitigating your risk factors into say, you know what, at that point you're in the bar, you're really going through, whether it be a tabanka, you're feeling dongo sora, as some people say, and somebody's there with you and you're thinking, you automatically go back to that men will instinctively understand another man, and you need somebody to communicate with. So under the, whether you're inebriated at the time, whether you're sober, whether you're just looking for companionship, you may start to discuss with that person, but you're not necessarily fully trusting the person. It's just, you need to talk.
You need to let it out,
you need to release.
Because men don't talk about none of the problems generally because it's not a masculine thing to do, right? You're raised from a child to not show emotions as a young man growing up. So when you become older, as a man, I could deal with it. I could deal with my problems. I had a man up and go to work the next day, I have money to make, I have family to take care of, and you become emotionally isolated.
If you go into a bar and you telling somebody, boy, I really love my girl, boy, I just wanted to. But the first thing you're doing in that environment is, well, forget Sheena, boy. You like take a next drink, and you're saying forget is a dismissive thing because men do. You're talking to another person and they do really want to. It's like when you say, how are you? If you really started to tell a man, boy, I'm going through this and I'm going through that. Like, I didn't, in your mind, I didn't really ask for this long talk, and I just saying, how are you?
Because that's the thing, because you might have been inside the bar for something worse, and then when you hear he come to talk, something is like.
But I feel things changing, you know. I feel things changing with the younger generation, and also the older generation of men right now. Culturally, we're starting to listen. We are starting to listen to men's problems now.
I agree with that.
I listening to I'm in a gender space long time, but every time I go, I listen to men's problems, and when I let it start to snowball, and they start to tell me more and more and more and more, and it's so deep that they go into with their problems, maybe because they know any gender space, that is one, but also my other friends, they talk to other friends as well, and they open up.
And I could add to that statistically, since I've opened my practice, when I first started, I had more female clients than male clients, because typically, you know, they say women will talk about their problems more. But over the last, I want to say 2.5 years, right? I have more clients, but even with more clients, it is about 60% now men and boys versus females. So that shows.
Is it that one of the coping mechanisms then is to open up?
Yeah, to talk.
Yeah,
no,
but then you leaving yourself to.
No, but the thing is, the spaces. So just shifting it a bit from how we were touching on the bar.
So what are the spaces? Because you mentioned.
That's what I'm saying. You also have the barber shop.
The barber shop is one.
You have where certain sports clubs that you could be able to go in. You have different types of activities, hiking groups, traveling groups. You have, for example, I had a partner and they for. Bow and arrow.
Archery.
Yeah, the archery for knife throwing, axe throwing, those kinds of things there too. Those things help. As a matter of fact, that helps men even more than women because we are accustomed to the primal thing. So when it is that we get into that space, we don't have to go into the violence of direct boxing, but you could be able to learn martial art or some kind of thing and keep changing and upgrading yourself along that line for survival skill in case, for example, the internet, everything shut down, and this is where the men need to be thinking.
Right, and you say something there that's important for coping mechanism. You use the word primal, right, or primal state. I would add, not negating, but add what I've noticed that help boys and men cope is competency, right? Competency. So any quote-unquote primal spaces where you learn competency. So the more competent a man feels, is the more confident he feels. And in learning the competence, what you do is start to emote and let things out. So the knife throwing, the hiking, the only thing when we think is nature, but sometimes the act of, I could climb this hill, I could throw this knife, so I feel competent, so now I feel confident.
Yeah, and confidence is key when it comes to men expressing their emotions as well. You have to be confident in yourself to deal with everything that coming at you at the end of the day, because there's a lot that men face, a lot of things, a lot of pressures that we have as men to get the money, to support your family, to be, they say, emotionally stable in the household, to be the friend that you trusted in the family system. All of these things is what our men are expected to be in society. So that links back to the same. So I was going to add on to you now. A lot of men use the coping mechanism. A lot of young men now use the coping mechanism of video games. So they actually play games, and as a safe space too now, because when they play in the games, they're talking amongst themselves.
And I think that's more important than the game, you know?
Yes, like I used it myself, right? When I was playing, I went through my relationship issues and stuff, and I play a game with my friends, right? Thinking it's just a normal game now, right? But then you start to talk a little bit.
But are you talking, or is it you talking about release?
You're talking talking.
You talking about the problem while you're playing the video game?
About the problem, yeah.
So you playing, you like
Correct,
like Halo or something like that, and you saying, my girl gone by, somebody goes, Ariel, sorry to hear that, boy, let me shoot up your...
No, it's a detachment, you know. You focus on the game, but also you just do other things at the same time. There's literally...
There's that kind of conversation game?
Yes, it's two separate things that you...
Because I'll show you, a lot of parents just say now that you know, with the video games, that's with the social part, because now everybody's talking. But that sounds foreign to somebody of an older generation. Because even when I was gaming, when I was small, it had no communication like that. We had no internet.
Nobody communication by itself. I would hear, and I'm just saying from, again, I'm not a gamer, but I'm just saying the communication I would hear would be where somebody would, is he peacong, is he gun talk, as it happening?
That happens
but to hear that there's release and actual dialogue that's taking place of what a man is going through. It's a long time
to playing game for, you know. Not just if it was just like a half an hour. You're roasting each other. You're saying, hey, you're not killing enough people in the game or whatever, right? That's like a half an hour. But if you continue observing the entire conversation, it starts to stray, and it starts to where they actually start to open up on the entire day, and with the girl on them or whatever. That happens, bro.
But that could be dangerous as a child, because I just thinking that now opening up to predators.
Correct.
Who now taking that into
That's the next thing I was going to say.
Okay.
There's the next thing, one of the points I was going to say, outside of predators, most of the time when it is that you in that kind of gaming space, especially when dealing with people internationally, you may know one or two persons directly. The majority you may never know, or you may never get to physically meet, which makes it easier to communicate and open up with somebody who can't physically judge you that you are accustomed communicating
with. Which is what
most
people who sit down with a psychologist or psychiatrist or psychologist or behavior change consultants, because you're telling yourself you're speaking to somebody supposedly without judgment. But I always come back to the fact that they're still human. Right? And they would still come with their own thoughts, opinions, interpretations, even though there's a science behind certain checklists, there's still a thought process into what, there's no one size fits all. It's always down to, I would say, interpretation, or again, following that checklist of behaviors. I want to come back because we started off with the moment of men's rights and what a men's rights advocate is. And uninterrupted, I want you to tell me a bit more about not just what an advocate does, but more so what are some of the things that you've seen and what drives you, like to say whether it be pet peeves or whether it be this is what is happening, Robert, and this is what I'd like to see as a.
I plenty things you ask there by Robert, but one of the main things that I want to say is
that's what I'm saying. I know you had
main thing, Robert, is that I looking at things from a more holistic sense, right? From up there, the United Nations recognizes International Women's Day. Robert, you know, they do not recognize International Men's Day.
There's an International Men's Day, but nobody's take it on.
No, it's not recognized by the United Nations, bro. It is there. It has been there for like about 20 years or so, right? That Dr. Jerome Tilak Singh coined and tried to revitalize. But the United Nations, when I went to them...
So United Nations as in United Nations,
they have a whole calendar.
Not Trinidad and Tobago.
The whole world.
Right.
International Women's Day is there. World Toilet Day is the 19th of November, which is International Men's Day, bro. Are we as men, we important? Are we important?
World Toilet Day?
Yes.
Like some that real, like something.
So that's our
thing.
So men are shit. Men are shit.
I didn't say that.
That's what we said.
But no, World Toilet Day is important in itself too, because remember people used to use latrines and stuff like that, and it's for hygiene. But at the same time, the irony behind it is like the contrast. Why the 19th of November cannot be recognized by the United Nations as International Men's Day?
Narrative.
The moment we try to push for that, and we get pushing back, we get keep push back. Oh, are they trying to attack with the women? Saying how men have issues too. It's not that men have issues too. We want to say men have issues. Full stop. Because we're not comparing to women.
So if I bring it back, I know I told you uninterrupted, but I can't help with regards to that we're going back to the fact that when you say men have issues and men have issues too, what we need to remind both men and women, and I say men as well, because men need to remind themselves that they are first and foremost a human. That the human, as you said at the start, about you must first be a boy before you can be a man. And as a boy, you are a child. And if you are a child, then there's no, yes, physically you are a man, or physically you are male, and physically the other gender is female, but the emotion is emotion. Nobody gets to determine that there's no bill in a boy or a child that determines you shouldn't cry, or you shouldn't be sad, or you shouldn't be angry, or you shouldn't be any of these things. That determination comes by societal influences as to what we then become later on, which we've discussed for many reasons. Men think logically or single focus at that point, because as Neanderthals, they had to hunt, and they can't be thinking about all these other things. So if we look at from that context, there's certain things that changes as you become a man. But as a child, which we are first and foremost, there is no difference.
I just want to add to that, right? Part of the issues in terms of how it is that different things are structured and pushed us in the media, pushed us societally, and pushed us nutritionally as boys growing towards men is a key thing. Because many things, many foods and baby formulas and different kinds of things has high estrogen levels in it on purpose to be able to tone down the testosterone levels.
Okay, so all of that in terms of the coping, because I listen.
So the diet is important.
We focusing on the coping mechanism. These are things for men in general to even be aware of. I mean, parents too, of course, but even men, when we reach the stage of being responsible for ourselves, whatever our parents did or didn't do, right? When we reach that age, we now have to, you say knowledge is power. So the more power that we have, the more knowledge that we have, we could be able to manage ourselves better. Right? And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because every man different and discovering your coping mechanisms different.
Everything in balance. Every single thing in balance, because you could get addicted to video gaming too. And you could get addicted to any coping mechanism, like you could running too much, you could run, exercise too much, and all of these things. You could push strain on your kidneys and things, you're gymming too much and you're real big. All of these things in balance. Coping mechanisms are, everything in life is balanced.
So as an advocate, what do you want, apart from International Men's Day, the recognition for International Men's Day, what are some of the things, as not just as an advocate but as a man yourself, do you want to see materialize?
Let me listen. Let me listen to women. Let me listen to the men, create a safe space. That is all I ask. It don't have to be a physical safe space. It could be a virtual safe space. But just listen to when men talk and don't be quick to judge. Don't even judge. Just listen. We tend to judge every time we hear somebody talking to us. We talking to someone and vice versa. Judgment is the first thing that comes to mind. But we have to listen first, be active listeners. Listen without judgment. And don't tell them, well, hey, if your girl horny and you leave she, it's not as simple. It's not as simple. Just listen first. They can come up with their own solution when they're telling you their problem. That's how simple it is. Just be there, listen to men. That's all I have to say.
And the coping mechanisms that I've heard so far, of one of which was write down. Write down what you want to be, because it's never too late to do that.
Yeah.
You could write down, maybe there's something that you realize, wow, as a child, this is what I wanted to do, and now you're in a position that you don't need to ask someone for permission. You don't need to go to your parents, or financially you can't afford it. And there's always a way. Nobody's saying that if you want to sing that you could go on a stage, but you could start to sing. You could go on YouTube and sing, and if people
pay for your own singing lessons now, and
you could do many things. Another one we mentioned was opening up. Find those spaces. Manhood was created as a safe space.
I love this.
It was created as a space of courage for men to have those discussions with no judgment, because judge not lest you be judged. And one of the things that we see, we talk about on this show, a lot, is that even in that judgment, you need to be mindful that people judge all the time. I myself. But then what I'm cognizant of is that I'm in victimhood when I'm judging. And the victimhood is you're afraid of either becoming that or that experience happening to you, or that you've gone through that in the past, which is a level of trauma. So for example, if you look at someone, you say, boy, they're a real fat boy. It's because either you were fat, you are fat, yourself, or you're battling with your own demons with regards to that, or you have fear of that because you're fear of ridicule or your own environment. And it's a matter of just that acknowledgement of where you're really coming from, because inherently you don't want to be nasty or negative to someone, because there are people that you would like, or things that you would like, and things that you dislike, or people that you would dislike, and you have to ask yourself, why is the difference? What is in the difference with that person? And it comes down to something that you don't like that you see in yourself. It's a mirror. It's a mirror, but you want to say?
So, two quick things, right? One, for youth and adults, what I normally give is an account, something called an account. And that account is feel, want, need, am, and then I am, I have, what if, and can't remember the last one. So that's basically this. So sometimes before a session, or even when I'm teaching drama or something, I'd normally ask, okay, everyone, and this is to bring them into the present moment, right?
Bring into the present, okay.
How do you feel? They say. And there's no right, make sure and let them know there's no right, there's no wrong. This is you. Forget what anybody else could say. Forget what anybody else may think. This is you. How do you feel? So they will tell you. All right? Feel, want. What do you want? What do you need? I am what? What do you identify with? I am what? And then after that, it's like, okay, what do I have? If you had the opportunity to say or to do something, what would it be? Next two questions. What am I thankful for? What am I grateful for? This brings you smack bang, pull you away from every form of distraction into who you are. Begins to bring you back and center you for your identity, for who you are, in order for you to now take account, to get away from all the distractions and disturbances, to now be like, what do I really want, boy? What do I really need? And these are the kinds of deep questions that we need to start asking ourselves, and then have people ask themselves.
But the latter part, you said, what am I thankful for? And sometimes people don't realize what they're thankful for. Correct. Or when you say, how do you feel now? My question would also be, how do you generally feel? Because in that moment you might be feeling good, but generally you might be feeling sad. So in the gratitude, it's when you have perspective and maybe answering those questions, you then realize, wow, I'm actually fortunate. I'm fortunate to be in a country like Trinidad and Tobago. I'm fortunate that I can drive 20 minutes and be at a beachfront. I'm fortunate that I can actually turn on a tap outside in public and get water. I'm fortunate, even someone pointed out to me, even if you go, Pipers, for example, there's boxes of food in a dustbin because there are many areas in the world that you can't even get that. There's not even those scraps. We're fortunate that we can go to beautiful parts of Trinidad and hike in and see these things. So it's a matter of perspective, and somebody like yourselves as advocates or like programs like this where you can show people that where you need to be grateful. But it's not something that you could, of course, impose because, sometimes no matter how much you give someone, if they're not in that space, they're never going to be thankful. But while you're on that topic, give us your closing thoughts. This is your camera here.
Personal choice, personal responsibility. There are two, I'll just say two quick things regarding two quick proverbs, right? African proverbs in particular. One, we got accustomed hearing, it takes a village to raise a child, but where's that village? And two, the child that is not accepted by the village burns it down to feel its warmth. Why does that child not feel accepted in that village that does not exist no more? Can we create that village again? I believe we can.
Deep there, boy Richie. Follow that.
All right, I had to watch my camera, right? So I want to say that I'm real thankful for this show overall, right? Manhood. But I also want to add that men and women are not enemies. We are a team. We're living in society together. We have to work together to achieve equity, equality in certain aspects of things, but uplift the entire of society so that I believe that human species is the best species in the universe, right? So that we could uplift each other and be the best and things like poverty, suffering, and all these kind of things, because I believe we have the knowledge, we have the technology, so men and women work together. That's it.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Yes, again, I am now understanding a different aspect of manhood and those who viewing to get more information. And what I did is listen to you all.
Yeah, active.
Right? And what you say there about listening, I think is really important. And both parents and those and men, one, sometimes even listen to yourself. Give yourself the space to listen to yourself. Two, listen to others, because that is something that I have seen that a lot of people don't do. Parents cut off children, right? Partners cut off other partners when they want to talk. So I think listening is one of my major takeaways from this, to listen to men.
A lot of takeaways. First off, I'd say part of your coping mechanism could be look at past episodes. We've had many a powerful guests on this show who have shared, who've enlightened, who've empowered, and I feel honored each and every time we film one of these episodes, because the knowledge that's gained is invaluable. And listen, write down. It really is never too late. You always hear that it's sometimes you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not entirely true. I've had old dogs before, and I tell you, I've taught them to sit, right? And it's just a matter of what into finding out what drives them, what drives somebody, what drives you, what makes you want to get off that bed. It's never too late. And men, speak to one another. Speak to one another, and it's like everything. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to bulk up in one day. If you're trying to run a marathon, everything begins with a step. So if you're speaking, if you're opening up to your brothers, if you're opening up to someone, initially you might think, I don't want to hear you, I want you to hear my problem, and it's a back and forth, because really you may just want to be heard, or you don't want to hear someone else's problems. But start listening, start somewhere, and then you'd find yourself feeling better about yourself. And remember, people only really remember how you made them feel. So make the effort as you go out there. And to end with 2 proverbs, one of African proverb, as my brother Kelson shared. I quote and proverb banter, right? So to say that in order for a cat to become a lion or aspire to be a lion, it must first give up its appetite for rats. And the last one I'd say is be very careful who you let on your ship, because people would rather sink the ship just because they can't be the captain. So be very careful as to who you open up with, but find that person, find those persons to open up with. And once you find your tribe, hold on to them. Hold on to them, because we need to talk, we need to express, we need to vent, because violence could never be the answer. Violence could never be the solution, right? Honor your woman, honor, what's he called? Honor thy mother, right? Remember, that's somebody's mother, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's child. Find another way, men. Violence could never, ever be the answer. This is ManHood.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm Mary and Elban, representing for each and every ghetto youth in Trinidad and Tobago, regionally and worldwide. So we are big up ManHood, spotlight, same time, alright? You want to build some dreams with me, sir? One thing me I pray, get my money and build my dreams. Rep for me city and fix my scheme. System matter, so them set it. So you have to get up and I get together, you them a dream. Get your money and build your dreams. Rep your city and fix your scheme. The system matter, so them set it. So you have to get up and I get together, you them a dream. Everybody want more money. One of them not gonna work hard for it. And me I talk about star money. So house and land and car money. Them just a look for your pocket for the bar money. When you want look another wrong, them a take off from it. Them wish them coulda take the little me above from me. Can't stop me cause them never really seen the start of me. The part of me, inside of the heart of me. The spark in me, to be what I want to be. Pain and sufferation a part of me. A masterpiece cause it's all out to me. You see me Yankee keep the haters off a we. And we not roll nothing up in a quarter leaf. Not sell my soul, not a money, not the world. That a boy coulda again. Cause one thing me a pray, get my money and build my dreams. Rep the city and fix my scheme. The system man, so them said it. So you have to get up and get together, you a better dream. Get your money and build your dreams. Rep your city and fix your scheme. The system man, so them said it. So you have to get up and cause it goes on and on. Babylon, you better keep your distance. You talk a lot of things and no man never respond. Some a little get the youth, man never get what me want. Now we have perform. Thank God we are with our wisdom. No matter the journey, we go walk the distance. And we keep on learning everything that we can. Can live this, keep your hand up. Not for them in the system can't stand us. That's why them office we sit down in a summer. Rastafari, not deal up in the drama. We'll be alright, got to live to see tomorrow. Some of them not have no blood in them bone marrow. Beg them a beg and them a borrow, them a borrow. Friend now your friend until your things run out. Pretend and sing it again. Everybody want more money. One of them not go work hard for it. And me I talk about star money. So house and land and car money. Them that's a look for your pocket for the bar. When you want look another wrong, them a take off. Them wish them coulda take the little me above for me. Cause of me cause them never really seen the start of me. And me I pray, get my money and build my dreams. Rep for me city and fix my scheme. The system matter, so them said it. So you have to get up and I get together, you a better dream. Get your money and build your dreams. Rep your city and fix your scheme. The system matter, so them said it. So you have to get up and I get together, you them a dream. Get my money and build my dreams. Rep for me city and fix my scheme. The system matter, so them said it. So you have to get up and I get together, you a better dream. Get your money and build your dreams. Rep your city and fix your scheme. The system matter, so them said it. So you have to get up and I get together, you them a dream. Yeah, man. Big up ManHood every time when on CNC3. Alright, every get the youth, build a dream and not that.
ManHood, brought to you in part by Lucozade and Solomon's Bespoke.
ManHood, brought to you by Lucozade.